Welcome to the Breakthrough Success Podcast, helping you achieve that breakthrough you've always been looking for in your business. And now your host, Mark Guberti.
Hello and welcome. I am your host, Mark Guberti, and this is the podcast for marketers and small business owners who are looking for the breakthrough for their businesses. I am very excited about this show. We are going to discuss how to build a targeted Instagram audience with our guest, Ksenia Avduolva. Ksenia is the mastermind behind Breakfast Criminals, a global movement with a goal to inspire people in every part of the globe to start every day with love, one Ikea bowl at a time. Her life mission lies in connecting people to their hearts through healing food, public speaking engagements, tribal gatherings, and daily Instagram posts infused with soulful messages. And now, it is my pleasure to welcome Ksenia to the show.
Hi, Mark. I'm excited to be here, and you said it better than I do. Thanks for such an introduction.
My pleasure. When I first came across Breakfast Criminals, I knew that I had to ask this one question, and it's something that I ask every single person at the start of my episodes, which is basically the why. So, how did you come up with the idea for Breakfast Criminals?
Well, to be very honest with you, it was never an idea to start a business. It was just something that came from a passion project of mine. And to take the honesty one step further, I was brokenhearted, and I was in New York, and I was in the middle of jobs, didn't have an apartment, and Valentine's Day was coming up. And shopping around, I noticed, the special Valentine's Day row at every store, and I was just like, oh my gosh, why all this pressure? I already am dealing with a broken heart, no job, and this and that. And then I ended up going against this first feeling and just walking into the aisle, the Valentine's Day aisle, and finding a beautiful ceramic red heart-shaped bowl that I ended up buying for myself, and starting every single day from there on with a breakfast prepared with love that I would serve myself in that bowl. So for me, it became this symbol of being grounded, and before, just rushing into the day and doing this thing and that thing, just taking a moment first thing in the morning to truly nourish myself, both on a physical level and on an energetic level through positive thinking and kind thoughts. So for me, honestly, it was just something that I did for myself that I really needed in the moment. And then I started sharing it on Instagram, and it kind of took off on its own. And, I guess the message of starting your day with love and with nourishment and with creativity, it really spoke to a lot of people. So that's how it became a global movement, in short.
So, in the beginning, you just viewed Breakfast Criminals as this passion, but at some point, it does turn into a business. What was the turning point in which you realized that I've got something that I could turn into a brand and basically do this for the rest of my life?
Well, I didn't say that I'm planning to do this for the rest of my life. I'm the kind of person that goes very much with the flow. I have so many different ideas, and a lot of things change. But at this point of time, I am super passionate about this project, and I'm in a place where I truly see it growing into something bigger than what it is now. I'm sure we'll get there later on into the podcast, but to answer your question, when I realized that it's time to give it the home and the platform that it deserves and start referencing it as a brand, is when I reached out to Sweet Green, which is a super successful salad and bowl chain that's now present both on the East and the West Coast. I was completely obsessed with it. In my opinion, they still to this day have the best kale salads in the world. And I reached out to them and I just said, hey guys, I'm obsessed with everything you're doing and I want to find a way to work together. at the time I had maybe, 5,000 followers. I was just starting out Breakfast Criminals. And back in the day, they also used to have a frozen yogurt served with different toppings. So we ended up collaborating and bringing my idea of making your breakfast beautiful and delicious, and bringing their idea of sourcing local food, making sure it's fresh and healthy and delicious, and sort of merging our philosophies and coming up with a photo shoot where I created different toppings for the yogurt that were based on local ingredients from I believe 13 different states in the US. And so I did that for them. That was a beautiful photo shoot, so much fun. And then they tell me, okay, so this is going to go on our Tumblr, and thousands of people are going to see it. That's when I had a wake-up call of, oh my gosh, I can't miss this opportunity of traffic being sent to me. Traffic of foodies, of people who are passionate about healthy, local eating. And so overnight, I just stayed up all night. Not that I'm promoting no sleep, but I stayed up all night and created a simple WordPress site, breakfastcriminals.com. I bought the domain. So I guess that's like the official birth of the brand when that happened.
When it comes to any brand, all brands face several challenges in which you have to come up with new ways of thinking or put in a lot more work in order to overcome those challenges. And usually there's something really nice waiting on the other side. So when you think about your journey with Breakfast Criminals, what do you think was the biggest challenge you overcame throughout the journey of the Breakfast Criminals brand?
That's a very interesting question. There's definitely been a few different types of challenges that have to do with branding, with product, with events, different types of things that I do. But the one that's coming to mind now is what I'm actively working on now, and that's how do I take a brand from just being known for me and my breakfasts and things that I'm doing to building a platform. So right now, my vision for Breakfast Criminals is to really have the website and the Instagram and all the other outlets associated with it be a platform and a home for like-minded people to share their ways to start their day right, whether it's recipes or tips on mindfulness or yoga or meditation. It's a wide array of things that can be shared, and there's just so much great content and so many wonderful and talented people that have important messages to share. So I'm in that transition right now, and how I'm doing that now is I have guest recipes published on my blog a few times a month. And this is something I've been doing since the very beginning. Is I also interview people that I find personally inspiring about their lifestyle, about their philosophy on food, on staying active, on building a business, and also on using social media to build a successful wellness brand. And so within those interviews as well, that really gives people and my readers a glimpse into how successful, interesting, and awesome people start their day.
You know what's really interesting is that when I asked you for the biggest challenge you're facing, you mentioned something that's happening right now. And I believe this is something that a lot of people tend to do, myself included. Like, if someone asks me right now, what's my biggest challenge, I'm not going to say it was when I got my first 100,000 Twitter followers. I'm going to talk about the product that I'm currently working on, because I feel like those are the ones that grab our attention, and we're trying to fix them right now and get them accomplished, which is why I feel like those are challenging. That's what makes life fun, having all these challenges.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And that's the thing about it. I truly believe that it's important to talk about those challenges and those things with like-minded people that we look up to, so that we can get support on finding solutions to them, because we are so much stronger as a community than we are on our own. I've always believed that, and I practice that every day.
I definitely agree with that. And like when I have a big challenge, I'll throw it out there to all of my blog readers, to all of my YouTube subscribers, because the more people know about it, the more I'm actually committed to pulling off all these challenges that I set for myself.
Exactly. And that makes, any brand really, especially if it's a personal brand that's known for the human behind it, it makes us so much more real. And I think people resonate with that much more than someone who's always perfect.
I'd like to shift gears here into something that you state within your life mission. And it's reflected by the work that you do with your brand. So part of your life mission is you mentioned daily Instagram posts infused with soulful messages to give people that feeling of empowerment. And consistency is a problem for many, but you seem to have that completely under control with your Instagram posting schedule. How do you consistently publish one new Instagram post every day?
That's a good question that I get quite a bit when I do speaking engagements about social media. To be honest, for me, it comes very, very naturally. I've been obsessed with social media since I am probably 14. I had a blog back then. I was super active on MySpace, if you remember what that is. So for me, social media is just my language. It's part of my daily life, and it comes super easy for me to express myself that way. Some things that do help me, because honestly, some days just are busier than others, and I don't have the time to sit down and write something thoughtful and meaningful, and I don't want to share something that is not that, is just having a note on my phone where I write down quotes or ideas that I can use later. And so just pulling from that bank of ideas and also photos saved for later is what really helps me make sure that I always have something ready to be posted, even if I'm not feeling it. And that's an important rule for me personally and for Breakfast Criminals is if I'm not feeling it, then I'm not going to be posting at all. And if I have nothing to say, I'd rather say nothing than to just post something because I think I have to. Because honestly, let's be real, people, social media consumers, all of us, all of everyone listening to this, we're getting smarter, and we really get a feel for what the vibe and the intention is behind any content that's being put out there. And so I want to make sure that whatever I'm putting out there energetically is positive and comes from a place of wanting to add value to my community and not just wanting to share something cool that happened to me,
When I looked at your Instagram profile, I was very attracted by the pictures, which basically, what you said about only sharing the pictures and messages that you feel are important, you do live by that, and you can see it if you visit Breakfast Criminals' Instagram account. But every single picture successfully makes me feel hungry and to eat what you've put up. And I know that it just looks like an innocent picture with you, but I know that for a picture like that, for it to look that good, there must be planning that goes into it. So what planning on your part goes towards creating the effect for all of your pictures so that we're looking at them and we got hungry stomachs and we're wondering what the recipe is and how we can get this food into our stomachs?
Well, first of all, I want to make a note that because like I shared that my intention right now is to expand Breakfast Criminals into a platform rather than just be sharing what I'm eating and creating, a lot of the pictures you're seeing are pictures of my community, of pictures that were hashtag Breakfast Criminals. So a lot of the creations there are not just me, just heads up. But the ones that I did take, there's no set of rules. This is a question I get every day. How did you build a brand? How can I build a wellness brand using Instagram? How can I get the followers? And the truth is, there is not one answer. I can share like 5 to 10 tips of things that helped me, but it's going to be different for everyone. And Yes, high quality visuals are a very important part of it. And personally, the way that I do it and the way that I achieve high quality visuals is most of the pictures are shot on my iPhone 6 and then edited in a couple of apps. The ones that I use are Snapseed and VSCO Cam. And also when I do have a little more time, I use my camera and I use Sony Alpha 6000 with a macro food lens that I really enjoy. And in terms of preparation, every person has such a different approach to this. When I speak to some of my food blogger friends, some of them literally spend 3 hours putting together a breakfast bowl. And I am the most impatient person in the world. And that's one of the reasons, actually, I started Breakfast Criminals, because I needed a reason to not eat my breakfast while I'm cooking it. I wanted to make sure that I can put it together, I can be more mindful, and then I sit down, and then I take a breath, and then I slowly enjoy it instead of just like having it done by the time I'm sitting down at the table. So I am impatient, and I am far from being a perfectionist. So I just intuitively put things together, and I've been into photography since I was a teenager. When I started making money when I was 14, one of my first big expenses was a camera. So that's something I've been just toying with around for a long time. And yeah, so there's not one trick. It's just hours of playing around with different apps, with different styles of photography, because I think that is important right now, because Instagram and really any social media platform is so saturated. It's harder to make a statement with your visuals, but it's also a great opportunity to do so. And for me, what has always helped me stand out and make my feed recognizable is the heart-shaped bowl, which, like I mentioned at the beginning, was something that I just bought for myself at first. But then after about 1,000 people asked me where I got it, I ended up producing one and selling it on Amazon. So the heart bowl is still an essential part of my brand, and heart bowl makes everything look beautiful. If you want a simple way to make any food look beautiful and take great food pictures, there you go.
I'm really happy that you mentioned the point of community, the people within the Breakfast Criminals community sharing pictures using the hashtag. And I was wondering how exactly you get community members to engage with this hashtag, because last I checked, by the time this podcast comes out, and this could have changed already, I saw at least 170 posts with the hashtag Breakfast Criminalized. So I was wondering, how do you get your community to be this active in sharing pictures for Breakfast Criminals?
So Breakfast Criminalized actually is a hashtag that I try to reserve for when I make breakfast for someone, whether it's an event or when I'm meeting someone one-on-one and doing an interview with them. So that's going to be less content, and I want it to be that way. And hashtag Breakfast Criminals is where the gold mine is at. That right now has this, as of this morning, it had over 22,000 photos, I believe. Yes. So how do I encourage people to create content and use it? I just use it myself. So I set an example. That's always the best way to get people to do anything. And also, because I do have a recipe ebook that I sell on my website, breakfastcriminals.com, I made sure that within the ebook, I remind people that, and also within my website, that I remind people that if they're making my recipes, I would love them to share it on social media and hashtag them Breakfast Criminals. But a lot of the time, I think people just see me hashtagging my creations, Breakfast Criminals, and that's how it's sort of spread,
Yeah, so you basically started this hashtag, and then people see that you are using this hashtag, and they realize, I'm going to use this hashtag as well to share my breakfasts.
Exactly. And also from time to time, I do a post where I remind my community how much I love seeing their creations and how much I love going through hashtag Breakfast Criminals, and that by using it, they have a chance to be featured on Breakfast Criminals Instagram, which has over 70,000 followers. So a lot of people who are looking for exposure and recognition and a little bit of social media love that's, I guess, one of the reasons for them to use it.
One of the things I see a lot of people do on Instagram is they'll post a picture, they'll have the description, but then they'll leave the comments with all the hashtags. They'll put that in a comment as opposed to putting it within the description. And I was wondering if there are any other Instagram hacks like this that they're very easy to do, but they allow your pictures to reach more people and grow your audience.
Yes, that's what I do as well. You never want to clutter your caption with a million hashtags. So the most I usually do is 3 hashtags within a caption. Most of the time it's less than that. And I hide the rest of my hashtags in my first comment, not in the caption. And in my notes, I actually have a separate note saved with different clouds of those hashtags representing different kinds of posts that I do. For example, there's one yoga themed, there's another one fitness themed, there's another one smoothie themed, and then a separate one that's acai bowl themed. So I have those saved so that I don't have to type them up from the beginning every time. And I would say another thing that really helps is engaging with others. If you want to get more likes, if you want to get more followers, then the best way to do that is to go out there and search through the hashtags that you are interested in and just go and engage with that content of people that you find interesting. And something that a lot of people think is once a blogger has lots of followers, they don't even pay attention to comments that they get on their page. But that's not true. I see every single comment, and I try to respond to as many of them as possible. And so that should never be disregarded. Bloggers are humans that are creating content, hoping to reach and touch in some way and move and inspire other humans. So whenever we get feedback, that honestly, to me, that makes my day every single time.
And you said that you engage with other people who are providing this hashtag within comments and within captions. And do you only engage with people who engage with your pictures and are your followers, or do you go beyond your audience circle and engage with people who they don't know who you are yet and this is the first connection?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no rule for that. Sometimes I just click on a hashtag. Like if I'm really into, right now I'm really into bulletproof coffee. So if I'm posting something about bulletproof coffee, I just click if I have a moment, I click on the hashtag and I see who else has just posted about it. And I go and engage with those people, especially if it's someone that seems like they're in similar industry or they have similar interests. There's not such a thing of, okay, these are the kinds of people I talk to. These are the kinds of people I don't talk to. This is why I love social media, because there's so many opportunities and so many different touch points that show us how much in common we have with other people and how much we can learn from each other, really.
And do you have a habit that you go by? So, like, are you engaging with 10 people outside of your circle per day, or is it just however you feel determines how many people you engage with?
Setting goals like this is definitely one way of going about it, and I can see how a social media agency probably would do something like that because they just need to provide reports to clients. But for me, it's always been and still is very intuitive. So I just do whatever feels right. And I don't have at this point hours to spend on Instagram. But in the very beginning, when I was just starting out, something that I would intentionally do is I was and still am obsessed with acai bowls, which are smoothie bowls made with acai berry from the Brazilian jungle, where I had the pleasure of going in September and making a YouTube video about it. If you want to check it out, my channel is Breakfast Criminals. So I was one of the first people to really focus on acai bowls and post a bunch of different recipes. So what I would do is I would post my picture in my heart-shaped bowl, and then I would just search the hashtag acai bowl and see what other people are posting and go and like and comment on a bunch of other posts that have to do with it. So that was before any bots, existed. That was like my manual way of reaching as many people as possible, or just going under hashtag healthy breakfast and liking as many awesome creative photos that I could. At this point, all of this could be automated, and a lot of people do use bots to do that automatically. But back then, it had a little more personal touch.
So when it comes to using Instagram and growing the audience, it takes a lot of time, and in your case and in other people's cases as well, that time investment is well worth it, as you have a large target audience of people who take a strong interest in what you are doing. But with a brand, there is an idea that you do need to make money in order to keep it going. And I was wondering how you use Instagram in order to generate more revenue for Breakfast Criminals.
Great question. There are many different sources of revenue. The most obvious one is when you reach a certain point in your Instagram career. Sounds funny, but I guess that's real. You start having lots and lots of brands reach out and say, hey, if we send you this product, could you talk about it on your page? You know, if you send you this superfood powder or this yoga outfit, can you talk about us? And once I did that in exchange just for product for maybe a year or so, I realized, and at the time, mind you, I had a full-time job in fashion. I realized it started taking up so much time, just email management, and just, my time and energy put into putting this sort of collaborations together, to creating the content around it, making sure it's authentic, making sure I love the product, that at some point I realized that I need to start charging for this, because this is my time, this is my work, this is my expertise. And so at some point I just created a media kit reflecting all the best work I've done and listing the kind of brands that I've worked with, and a rate sheet that says my rates for different types of sponsored content. And so now when brands reach out and they want to work, my rule is I only work with products and brands that I would actually use in my own life. So I always have them send me products to test. And then if I love it, we talk about what kind of content they're looking for. And a lot of the time it's recipes. So it could be a coffee company, it could be like a green superfood powder, or it could be like a gluten-free granola or oatmeal. And so they send me their product, and I create recipe that's shared on my blog and across all my social media channels. And that's like the easiest way to explain how it works. My favorite way personally is to work directly with brands and to create relationships that last past just one sponsored piece of content, because when I truly love product, I just keep using it, and it's so organic for me to keep creating content. So my favorite way to work with brands is through ambassadorships, where it's a 3 or 6 or 12-month agreement where they just keep getting consistent exposure. Yeah, that's my favorite way to work with them, is directly with the brands. And a lot of the times it's actually me going out and reaching out to them. Every year I make a list of my top dream brands that I really want to work with. And so far, knock, 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 that's all worked out. But another way to go about this is there are a lot of different platforms that connect so-called influencers. Not my favorite word, but that's what it is. You could also say content creators with brands. And so that's like a faster, less personal way to get quick gigs.
So people hearing about the idea of contacting brands and getting free products that they then showcase to their Instagram audiences, they could be very appealing. And you said that you primarily reach out to these brands and you create a list of brands you want to reach out to in advance. But what does the email say to the brand? Because I know that you probably have some type of rubric that you go by that slightly changes based on the brand and your personal opinion of that brand as well. So can you walk through how we would communicate with these brands and say we want to get into a partnership with you with our Instagram accounts?
Absolutely. And I love talking about this. I do personal coaching with people as well, where I actually help them create their Instagram presence. And I coach them exactly on how to reach out to brands, how to make sure they have higher visibility, how to charge for their work. And, one thing before I answer your question, I want to really stress is that I'm always asked, how many followers do I need to have before I start charging for my work? And the truth is, first of all, there is no formula and there's no set number of followers, because it's all about the content and it's all about the value that you're delivering. Like you could have 100,000 followers, but you're talking about so many different things that it's hard to even tell what your content is about. Or you could have a smaller, maybe, like 5,000 follower audience, but you are, like my friend Sasha, you are an expert in sustainable living. And you post about farmers markets every weekend. You post about sustainable recipes and ways to decorate your home with our planet in mind. And you're very consistent to your brand and your message. And if we're talking about a sustainable, home brand that's making, for example, cleaning products, they're more likely to work with someone with a smaller following, but with someone who's truly passionate about a cause and about spreading message about that. So, get numbers out of your mind and just stay focused on the value and your content. And so again, like Mark, you were asking me about my why. This is so important to stay connected to your why. When you're trying to build an audience, when you're trying to grow a brand using social media, it's so extremely important to stay connected with it and to keep asking yourself, because it might be shifting. What is it that I love so much that I can wake up every morning and be just so excited to share everything I know about this subject? Like, what is this subject that keeps you going? For me, it's breakfast, For you, Mark, it's connecting people and using social media to inspire people to be entrepreneurs. Is that right?
Yeah, that's one of the best ways I've heard it said, actually.
We need to talk. I like how you worded what I do better than I do. Anyway, so it's this connecting, with the why and connecting with the bigger picture of what you're delivering. And your work is always worth something, because your time is the most precious resource. So that said, how I reach out to brands, there's not a standard way. For example, right now I'm in LA. And I was at Whole Foods and I walked in and I saw this brand that makes really high quality nut milks. All super clean ingredients, everything plant-based. And I haven't really been on my laptop because I'm traveling and just bouncing around. And so I didn't even have time to reach out by email. But I either tweeted them or I mentioned them in my Instagram story, saying something like, oh, I'm so excited to try this brand. And, sure enough, today I get an email from them. They found me, they found my email on my website, and they reached out and said, hey, thanks so much for mentioning us in your story. Would love to, figure out a way to work together and send you a product. So that's one way, never underestimate those small touch points, because one of the big things that truly took Breakfast Criminals to a new level in the very beginning, the first months of existence, is when Lululemon, the yoga brand that we all know, they saw one of my pins of my superfood breakfast bowls on Pinterest. And after seeing that, they reached out to me and said, hey, we would love you to blog for us and contribute recipes to the Lululemon Global blog every month. So, you just have to keep putting things out there and you never know who's going to see them. So that's one thing. And when I reach out to brands, and I'm always, keeping a list, and I have a folder in my phone called Brands to Work With. I take note of different brands in other people's Instagram feeds, on the street, when I'm shopping. And then when I have time, I just sit down and I reach out and say, hey, if it's a brand whose products I've already tried and I love, I just say, hi, I found you there and there. I tried your product. I absolutely loved it. Would love to chat about working together. Sweet and short, to the point. And if they reach out saying, hey, we would love to talk more, I send them my media kit and we just hop on the call usually. And I ask them what they are trying to achieve, where they are in their business, and how I can support them. And I share the same for me. And we just find touch points so that it's really a win-win collaboration. And that's my favorite kind of way of working with brands.
Ksenia, throughout Breakfast Criminals, you have learned a lot of different lessons. And right now I want to ask you, what is the best lesson that you have learned throughout that journey?
Mark, you're full of great questions that I can have more than one answer to each. But the first one that comes to mind, that I'm just in awe of this, honestly, every single day, is that there is nothing more important than your reputation, and to, sticking to high ethical standards and making sure that any moves that you do are full of integrity. What I'm realizing, Breakfast Criminals has been around for 4 years, and there's so many people I've met. There's so many brands I've worked with. There are so many people that were at one brand before and now are, could be big deal at another brand. And so you just want to make sure that you don't burn any bridges. If there's someone you don't want to work with, you just politely explain why it's not on brand with you. But personal relationships are very, very important. And it's super important to be an active contributor to any community that you're in. For example, I'm super active in the wellness community, mostly in New York, but really by now in lots of different cities and countries too. But it's so important to just come to your community and ask them what they need support with. It's never a matter of just taking and taking and taking. It's a matter of just, staying kind and staying open and staying supportive, and remembering that you won't get too far.
One thing I'd like to leave Breakthrough Success listeners with is an inspirational quote that when they leave this episode, they're feeling pumped and ready to go. So I ask you right now, what is one awesome inspirational quote you can think of right now?
That I came up with?
Yeah, well, anything. You could have come up with it, or it could be from someone else.
Okay, I'll share the one that I saw at a yoga studio today that I absolutely love. And it is by Albert Einstein. And it says, okay, let me just look it up. I have it in my picture so that I don't butcher it. So it goes like this. There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, and the other one is as though everything is a miracle. And I think that's what it's about. I think there's a miracle in every moment, and I think there's something beautiful that we can learn from every person we meet. And that's why I'm so obsessed with how we start our day, because how we spend those first waking moments really sets how the rest of the day goes. So I think we should all start our day with a little miracle.
I absolutely love the message of that. I feel like we could take for granted things that we have or where we currently are, because I feel like too often we'll set goals, but we'll put our happiness at the end of the goal. And until we get that goal, we can't really feel happy or appreciate things that we've already achieved. So I truly believe that idea of everything is a miracle instead of nothing. It's really one or the other.
Exactly. And gratitude, you bring up a very important point. This is something I remind myself every morning. We could get caught up in goals and to-do lists, but truly the thing that keeps me going forward every day is gratitude for what I already have. So thanks for that reminder.
My pleasure. Ksenia, it was such a pleasure to have you on my podcast. This was such a fun episode. But before you go, I want to give you the opportunity to let all Breakthrough Success listeners just have an idea of where we can all find you on the web.
Okay, there's going to be a lot of places. If you are into healthy food and starting your day right, then you should definitely check out breakfastcriminals.com and sign up for my newsletter. as well as find me on Instagram at Breakfast Criminals to see my creations, as well as the whole Breakfast Criminals community around the world. And if you are into seeing my life as a traveler and social media speaker and entrepreneur, then my personal account on Instagram is Digital or Alive, as well as my blog, digitaloralive.com, where I share my findings from my travels and any kind of Q&As about social media and entrepreneurship, everything I'm learning around the way. And those are the main platforms. If you guys are into Snapchat, I am BRKFST Criminals. And I'm also on Twitter, but I'm sure Mark is going to tweet this podcast there, so that's easy to find.
All of those social media profiles and website, all of that is going to be within the show notes of this episode. Ksenia, it was such a great time with this episode. Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you, Mark. It's my pleasure. I can't wait to see what you make for breakfast tomorrow. You better send me a picture.
I thoroughly enjoyed that interview. Ksenia has grown quite a large Instagram audience for the Breakfast Criminals brand. The message behind Breakfast Criminals is one that I strongly embrace, as I believe having a good breakfast is vital for health and overall success. If you forgot to take notes, then don't worry. We've got you covered with the show notes. Visit markberry.com/E36 for those. You can ask your questions over there, which I'll be more than happy to answer. To never miss an episode, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on whatever player you are using. If you are a regular listener and haven't done so already, I would greatly appreciate it if you could give this podcast a review or a rating. Two ways you could do this are through markgabberty.com/iTunes or markgabberty.com/Stitcher. That ends this episode. Don't forget, dream big, achieve greatness, and unlock your potential today. How does over 100 retweets per day sound to you? My free ebook, 27 Ways to Get More Retweets on Twitter, has you covered. I use the methods within this ebook to get over 10,000 retweets every single quarter. To learn more and get access to this free resource, visit markgabberty.com/retweet. This podcast is a production done by Mark Gabberty. For more insights, head on over to markgabberty.com.